Well, welcome. I'm Rabbi Robin Frisch, and this is the Mazel Pups podcast. If you're Jewish or Jewish, however you define it, and you love dogs, this is the podcast for you. To say I've been looking forward to today's guests, and I am very intentionally using the plural here, would be a major understatement. I first learned about Shayna Maydele's account a couple of years ago when I first went onto Instagram. Didn't know what I was doing at all, but I can tell you that one of the first dogs I saw, one of the first dog accounts right away was Shayna Maydele's account, and I was in love. She had not only fantastic pictures, she just talked about Judaism and the holidays in this straightforward, accessible way. And I was thinking, that is great that that's out here and that people are saying that. And I really felt like I knew Shayna Maydele. Then a few months ago, I announced I was starting a Mazel Pups podcast on Instagram. And I asked people, who would you like to hear from? And by far, most of the responses were Shayna Maydele. I want to hear from her. Often it was just her. Sometimes it would be her mom, or occasionally people knew your name was Heidi. And I'd always have to write back, I plan to. She's on my original list. I have here today Heidi. So Heidi Silverstone, as well as Shayna Maydele. And Heidi, you are the woman behind all of this. I know that your whole family is involved, but it's really you who is the driving force behind this Shayna Maydele account that we're all following. You are, for lack of a better term, her voice. So I want to ask, first of all, for you to tell us just a little bit about her.
Hello. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here in lovely Pennsylvania. This is Shayna Maydele. She is barely 10 pounds of fluff, and she loves people, and she loves dogs, and she's just happy-go-lucky, and I love her.
And I have to say, as much as I say I know about her, when Heidi came in just a few minutes ago and I said, wait, she's a lot smaller than I thought. And when you said 10 pounds, I was shocked because she does have so much fluff. I would have never imagined she's only 10 pounds, but has as much, I don't know if it's the right term for a dog, as much personality as I imagined she would.
She's bigger than life. And when she gets wet, she completely disappears. All of her fluff goes away.
So even though I'm sure many of the people watching right now know a lot about her already, I want to ask the 4 questions, and the first 2 happen to do with a dog, and her in particular. The first one is, do you have a dog? So we know the answer to that, but maybe you can expound a little bit about that and tell us about the kind of dog that she is.
Sure. We have our lovely, wonderful Shayna Maydele. She's a Coton de Tulear. The name sounds very pretentious, but it's actually very descriptive. Coton is French for cotton, and if you pet a coton, their hair, it's hair, not fur, is very, very soft. Tulear, that's the name of the city in Madagascar where they originally come from. So it's just a descriptive name. Wow.
And probably Coton de Tulears are most famous these days because Barbara Streisand, who cloned one of hers.
Yes, I would joke around with people and say, yeah, she's a clone, but she isn't.
So, again, those of us who follow her on Instagram know all kinds of facts about her, but can you share a fun fact or 2 about her?
Sure. She has a few superpowers. One superpower is she can leave a bowl of food untouched for hours, which is unheard of for dogs. Yeah. She's very picky. Her other superpower is she can sleep through fireworks and thunder. Nothing seems to bother her.
I am so jealous.
I think maybe because she's a New York City dog and there's always fire trucks and noise that it just doesn't bother her.
I think I told you I had to change the name of my lightning round to the 4 questions because one of my dogs is so traumatized by lightning. It just felt like an inappropriate name.
Right.
So I want to ask these questions of you now, not of Shayna Maydele. Okay. What is your favorite thing about Judaism?
There's so much, but my favorite part of Judaism are all the customs that bind us. I know wherever I go in the world, if I meet another Jew, we might have slightly different customs because of the part of the world they're from, but the underlying ritual, it's all the same. When I travel with my family, wherever we are in the world, we always go to a synagogue. We've been in Morocco and Argentina and Europe, And it's just amazing. We might not speak any of those languages, but when it comes to the Hebrew prayers, we know them and can follow along. And what's amazing is sometimes even the tunes are the same. And so wherever I am as a Jew, it doesn't matter. We're all together. One of the most unique experiences we had at a synagogue on our travels, of all places, was in Rapid City, South Dakota. It was hard to find the synagogue. The GPS brought us through all these windy roads. We didn't know where we would end up. And the synagogue was actually, it looked like it was a house in the suburbs. So during the silent Amidah, my son Michael tapped me on the shoulder, pointed out the window, and he saw a herd of elk.
Oh, wow.
It was like so South
You don't
Dakota.
get that in New York City.
No,
when
we
you're
don't.
at
We don't get
Park
that
Avenue Synagogue
at all. But that's what I love about Judaism, because all these synagogues, whenever we would go, we would be embraced. We'd be invited for Shabbos dinner. We would get an aliyah. So that's my favorite part.
And I know you celebrate all the holidays because I see it on Instagram through Shayna Maydele. But what is your favorite holiday?
My favorite holiday is the most frequent holiday. It's Shabbat. There's something about a mandatory day of rest that I find appealing. I think it's good for anybody, if you're Jewish or not. Before the pandemic, we would very frequently have friends and family over, have big Shabbat dinners, or we would go to friends' houses. Because of COVID, we don't do it as much, and hopefully we'll get back into the rhythm again. But I love to cook, and I find cooking a Shabbat meal, it's not nearly as difficult as putting together a breakfast or frying up 1,000 latkes or preparing a Seder. So I really like Shabbat the most.
I have to say I love every Friday seeing there's always a post of Shayna Maydele, usually in her yarmulke,
Yes.
or a yarmulke, because they're always
yarmulke.
different.
Yes.
And often they have significance that you'll explain, and she's in front of candlesticks, and she's in front of a Kiddush cup, and what I think what's so nice to me is I know that you're not just putting them out for the picture. Like, you can tell, like, they're going to use this tonight.
Yes.
And they're going to celebrate Shabbat with that exact challah that's sitting out that she is somehow sitting in front of and not eating, which amazes me.
That takes a lot of work. But also because she's picky, she doesn't go for it. Any other dog would die for it.
But there is something I think very special about knowing that while they may be posed, they're not posed with things that you're not using.
Right.
And I think I'm not the only one who's touched by that. And I think
Yes.
that's part of what makes a big difference. So you are clearly a dog person now. Were you always a dog person?
I was always a dog person. I had dogs growing up. My first dog was Boots. She was a mutt. She was all black, but her legs were brown, so it looked like she was wearing boots. She had this funny trick she would do. We had a central vacuum cleaner. So there were little doors on the floor where you put the hose in. So she'd run over to the door with her nose, open the door. But the machine that ran the vacuum was down in the basement. So she would run downstairs and bark at it because it was making noise, run back upstairs and close the door with her paw, and that was it. But that's what Boots did. Then my second dog was a beautiful Irish setter. My brother actually found her in college, but he wasn't allowed to keep her there, so he brought her home. She was very skinny. So, of course, my Jewish mother was constantly feeding her, trying to fatten her up. Ironically, Irish setters, they're normally skinny anyway, so she was always trying to feed her. Ruby, no matter how much she liked the food my mother gave her, always wanted more. She ate some soap a friend gave us from France. She ate a bottle of Vaseline. She ate my Red Badge of Courage book report. And my teacher believed me because I showed him the scraps with the doggy DNA on them. But the one thing that she really liked to eat the most and wasn't supposed to was my mother's zucchini bread. My mom had an amazing vegetable garden. It would make delicious zucchini breads when I had a chance to eat them. If not, Ruby would always find them, no matter where she hid them.
That is right. Well, you are, I think, the only person I know maybe in history that exists who truly the dog ate your homework.
Yeah, truly, the dog ate my homework.
Did you have other pets as well? I'm just curious. Or was it just
Did
dogs?
I have other pets? Oh, we had one more. It was sort of our pet. My brother had a dog. But a lot of times he left the dog with us. Her name was Sasha. She was a small, dirty white dog. She wasn't dirty. That was just the color, dirty white. But my Jewish mother thought that the dog was just dirty. So one day she gave Sasha a bath, and the dog would not turn white because the dog was not white, that poor dog. And I have a picture of that, and every time I look at it, I laugh.
So your two sons are actually adults now and don't live at home.
Yes.
Did you have pets when they were growing up?
It's funny. My kids and I, we wanted a dog. My husband, he likes dogs, but he was the smart one and knew it would just be so much work. And you know what? I'm glad we didn't have one because I see how limiting it can be. Even though it's wonderful living in the city, it's completely different how you take care of a dog. So the kids had fish. And one day we went on vacation, and when we came home, the person who took care of them overfed the fish. So that was quite sad. Then they also had a pet slug, which I'm sure that's also a first for muzzle pups, a pet slug. One day I was cleaning broccoli, and I found a slug, and I showed it to the kids, and I was just going to throw it out. They're like, "Oh no, let's keep it as a pet."
Did they name the slug?
The pet's name was Broccoli.
Oh, that makes sense.
So we went to the store and we bought a little tank, and I'm like, how am I going to take care of a slug? But coincidentally, my younger son was, I think, maybe in first grade at the time. He's now a cantor. He's an ordained cantor, so it was a long time ago. He was learning about slugs in school at the same time, so he knew what to feed the slug. We fed it chalk, and we fed chalk, as in writing on a chalkboard.
I would have never guessed that.
and lettuce, and it grew and it grew, like more than tripled in size. And every now and then we would look in the tank and we would panic. We wouldn't see it, but it would climb up the walls. Eventually, Broccoli passed on. So we gave Broccoli a dignified burial in Central Park.
So, it's interesting when you talk about having a dog in the city. I have, a fenced backyard. I can just of course, my dogs, though, would rather I walk them up and down the cul-de-sac on a leash than run around in the backyard, which I don't understand.
Yes.
But at least I have that option. Obviously, in the city, you don't. But I have to say, many people I know say, okay, we've raised our kids. Now we're empty nesters. This is our last dog. So it's interesting that you and your husband decided to get a dog at that point in time where you're probably doing more traveling and can get away more easily during the week. What prompted you at this point in your life to get a dog?
Well, we still always wanted a dog. And everything you say, I agree. It was like, no more kids, yay, we're free. But because we didn't have a dog, we would frequently dog sit for friends. So one of my older son's friends, actually a friend from Camp Ramah, his family had a coton de Tuileries, and they were going away and asked if we would watch Julius the Coton, and we said sure. So we had so much fun. Rob fell in love with this dog, and we got to see what it was like taking care of a dog in the city. So after Julius left and we wiped away our tears, my husband said, if we ever get a dog, this is the kind of dog that I want. But what happened in my brain, I heard we're getting a dog. So I immediately scoured the internet to try to find our very own Coton, and that's how we ended up.
And your breeder was not exactly next door either.
The breeder was in Arizona. We chose her based on a lot of things. We were checking references, also the timing of when the dog was born. We had no idea until after the contract was signed. It was the same as Barbra Streisand's breeder. I don't think they're related in any way, but it's the same place. And we had to go to Arizona to pick her up. Arizona is beautiful. I don't recommend it in the summertime. It's very, very hot.
So did you know before you went what you were going to name her?
We had a whole discussion about what to name her. We're a big Springsteen family, so I thought, let's call her Rosalita. And we didn't even have to have a discussion. It was like, oh yes, that's the best name.
Now, were your sons involved or just you and your husband?
Oh no, my sons too. They're
huge.
All four of us are big Springsteen fans. So we decided on Rosalita. We did toy with a bunch of Yiddish names, but we said, what, Rosalita is the name. So got to Arizona, went to pick her up. I looked at her and I said, that's my Shayna Maydele. And that was it. Rosalita went out the window.
How did your husband and sons react to that?
I mean, they were okay. I think in a way they probably thought I would do that, but it's okay. When I told my dad, it was funny. He's like, really? Come on, what's really her name? I'm like, Shayna Maydele. Like, he didn't believe that was it. I'm like, that's her name.
I'm sure it wouldn't have mattered, but I'm just trying to imagine Rosalita's this big Jewish dog on Instagram. It doesn't have the same feel to it.
And I was in a way glad we didn't, because we meet a lot of dogs and there are a lot of Rosies. There are a lot of dogs named Rosie, and we probably would have ended up calling her Rosie. So it's better this way.
As has come up many times, and many people we're watching, I'm sure already know, she has this very popular Instagram account. Tell me a little bit about your Instagram experience before Shayna Maydele.
I had zero social media experience at all. I don't have any social media. I don't have Facebook, Instagram, nothing. So it was all new to me. And the only reason I started the account was my friends and family. They were all asking me to send pictures, and I'd be sending pictures all day. So I figured this would be easier. I didn't put any privacy on it, thinking who's going to
And how long ago was this? What year?
She's turned 5 in April.
So it was like 2019.
It was 2019,
like right before the pandemic.
Right before the pandemic. So that's how she ended up.
So you just started posting almost like privately, but you didn't set it privately.
And I wasn't really carefully curating, or like, oh, click. Like, there weren't even great pictures at the beginning because I didn't think it was so important. And then, we would go to the dog park and meet other dogs. Are you on Instagram? Like, oh, it's like that a thing? I didn't even know that was like a thing about dogs. So it was kind of funny because then some Catones were following me, and then like I started following some Catones. But then it really exploded once on a Shabbat. I put a yarmulke on her head to wish my friends and family. I thought it was only my friends and family. Shabbat Shalom. And then all of a sudden, there's smoke coming out of my phone. Like, Instagram is going crazy. It ended up, the Instagram site, Hey Alma, a Jewish site, they shared her picture. And so she got hundreds of followers. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. So the next week, I did the same thing. I shared a picture and got more followers. And I guess Hey Alma, it's part of a whole bunch of other Instagram accounts.
There's 70 Faces Media, and they're part of it. There's Kveller and Hey Alma.
Right,
and
so
other...
Kveller and My Jewish Learning and Jewish Food, they all shared pictures of her.
Oh, that's great.
And in fact, it was very interesting. The first time My Jewish Learning shared a photo of her, the topic was, can Jews have dogs? And it was talking about, some... it depends how you interpret it. Jews shouldn't have, or they can, or they can't. So I thought it was really interesting.
So you didn't even know they were going to use her picture?
I didn't know, but, I don't mind, because if it's out there,
right,
and as
people
long
knew
as
it was her.
Right, and as long as they give her credit, that's fine with me. I love when people share her picture, as long as they give her credit.
So that's was that the beginning? Sounds like
that was the beginning, popularity. And then because there were big accounts, and every time they shared, I'd get more people, and it just kept growing and growing.
So obviously, we've talked about you post her in a kippah and celebrating Shabbat and the holidays. You have some other great posts as well, which I have to say, I started following you because of the Jewish part, but then I get a real kick out of the selling things on the street. So can you tell us what that is, and what in the world,
what's going on in New
how
York
did you
City?
think of it?
So what's so funny is it's very normal to any New Yorker. You walk out on the street and you see a dresser, you see a chair, you see a mattress. It's crazy because we're a vertical city. Yeah. So there are hundreds of apartments, and if somebody moves, it's not like if you're moving in a house, you get a dumpster and you have one thing outside. That people at the end of the month, you could barely walk on the sidewalks. So there's all this stuff. So I thought it would be funny, and I took a picture of her, and so the caption was, new business venture. I'm selling you this couch, free bed bugs, because you never know. And what's nice about it is some people do take the furniture that looks in good condition or fixable condition, and otherwise the rest goes to the garbage truck. I actually find it to be a Jewish value to respect the environment. And I think when people put out furniture on the curb, they're probably secretly hoping somebody takes it. Right. A lot of times there's a sign on it that says free, or take me please, or find me a new home. So I'm hoping most of that furniture finds a place. Some of it found a place in my house. We have a coffee table. It's wood and it's ornately carved. My husband found this beautiful Art Deco end end table. And I said, where did you get that? And he said, on the street. And I said, on the street next to a moving van? Like, I mean, it was just so nice. And once we found a dresser, it was in very bad condition, but the hardware on it was beautiful. So we got our Black & Decker, we took off the hardware, and now we have it on our furniture at home. And it's antique, it's beautiful.
Now, are any of these things you put pictures of her in front of?
No, because they were already in my house.
Okay.
They were already in my house.
Because hers, I mean, you have a very good sense of humor with the things they're actually entertaining to read. Do you try to do that once a week or just when you see things?
There's so much stuff. I could do it every day. When you have Instagram, it's hard to come up with new ideas all the time. So I try to do it once a week because I can't come up with so many ideas, but each piece of furniture is so unique.
So which posts have been the most popular of her?
So it's funny. Well, actually, it's not so funny. Her Jewish posts are the most popular. And because when I started her account, I didn't start it as a Jewish Instagram account. So I guess that's why I find it so funny. But now she is known as the Jewish
I think
dog.
probably because those I'm just one of thousands.
Yes.
Followed you because of that. And
right.
So now that's like so much of your audience.
Right. But her most popular Instagram post, I did it 2 years on Hanukkah. It was a video tutorial about how to light the candles. Mm-hmm. It got over 1 million views. Wow. And then her second most popular post.
Was that reposted somewhere, like through Hey Alma, or just from...
I think it was definitely reposted, but it was shared by so many people. Yeah. And if you share it, then they follow you and they share it. But it was, I couldn't believe how many followers it was getting. And then my second most popular post, it was a video of a Shabbat dinner. Right after October 7th, we hosted these 2 Israeli sisters. They came from Indian and Yemeni descent, but they lived in Israel at the time. People didn't know what was going on right away. Mm-hmm. So their mother sent them out of Israel, said just leave. And so we signed up with, I don't even remember the organization, that will take somebody if they need housing. So nice. We ended up getting these 2 sisters. And so they cooked us this amazing Shabbat meal. And one thing that makes me so happy that the video of that meal went viral is because it was Yemeni Indian food, and so many people think that Jews are only from Europe, but we're from North Africa, we're from Asia, we're from the Middle East. So that made me really happy. That has almost 1 million views.
That's amazing. So the other thing about Shayna and Maydele that amazes me, and this is more about my dogs, they would not sit still. If I can, I'll put I can put a bandana on them. Right. That's about it. And then chase them around trying to take pictures for the next 3 days. Right. And it's never easy. I'm sure it may not be as easy as it looks when I see it, but she's always sitting, in front of a challah, sitting there perfectly, her tongue out, everything's placed perfectly. Right. How on earth do you do that? I'm not even going to aspire to do that. Right. Maybe some of our listeners can, but I'm just so in awe of how that happens. She moves. I'm looking at her. It's not like she just sits there waiting to be photographed. She's got a lot of whatever the dog version of personality is.
I have a very helpful assistant. I'm also married to him. So it really takes 2 people to wrangle this ball of fluff. We try to minimize the time that she's there for the picture. So I set up everything in advance, and sometimes it means moving furniture, changing lights. I'll take a few pictures without her there, set it up, and then once it's ready, Rob will put her in the spot, put the yarmulke on, and then I start no pun intended, barking orders at him. Move the yarmulke to the left, move it to the right, it's covering her eyes, move her back, go left to right, move the candles, because I want to try to center it. And so we do that, and she's very patient. I guess she also enjoys being with us. So then before I start snapping the pictures, Rob runs to stand behind me and starts waving his arm, and the 2 of us are like, making all these crazy noises. So she'll look towards us and look at the camera. Now, sometimes I just click, 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 go away, and then we're done. But sometimes she's just sitting there, but she's not smiling. And what is a dog smile? It's literally just them opening up their mouth and their tongue hanging out. So how do you get a dog to do that? It's if they're happy, if they're running around. So if she's not smiling, we take her down, and Rob and I literally chase her around the room just to get her going. And once that tongue is out, we throw her back up there and we take a picture.
I have to say, I feel a lot better. Because I was kind of expecting you to say, like, well, we put her up there. She just waits for us.
No.
Everything's easy, and it takes 2 minutes.
No,
so I'm glad.
no, not at all.
Part of me is glad that,
it's
you
funny.
go through what everyone else does.
Well, because the setup is so difficult to do, I'll start clicking. And even if the very first picture worked, I don't even look at them until I take like a million of them. But then a lot of them are really good. So I have a hard time deciding which one to use.
I have to say that I'm incredibly excited. As you know, Abby Lunger and I are creating a Pawsitively Jewish 2025 calendar. And we decided we wanted to use 12 dogs, obviously, for each month. And I said to Abby when we started, I can't make the decisions. It's like, I love every one of these dogs that I don't know, but I've been like posting their pictures. I'm going to show you like different options. You pick the dogs, because it was just like too tough for me. But I said, you have to, not you have to. You're going to want to use Shayna Maydele. I said, and don't worry, like, pick from the others which months, because they have to have the right lighting and the things in the right place and be centered. I said, pick the other dogs that work, because for any holiday, there's a good picture of her
in.
And we could put her in January. All there is in January of 2025 is the last night of Hanukkah. We're not focusing on Hanukkah until December. There's like great Shabbat pictures, like everything. There's a good picture of her that would work. And so she is our January girl, celebrating Shabbat.
Yes, Miss January.
I was very excited the other day when I needed some music. Calendar girl seemed perfect.
That worked out.
And so she is our calendar girl. Obviously we asked all of the people whose pictures are going to be in it if it was okay to use their dogs. And you referred earlier to people sharing your dogs. And just want to kind of re-emphasize, like, it's okay with you that people use the pictures, but you do want to be able to be tagged or give permission.
Absolutely. I was really surprised all the times I've seen her picture without her Instagram name, because social media has been around for so long. This isn't a secret that you could just take a picture. People know. So, everybody listening, use her picture. I don't care. Just give my dog the
No, and I
credit.
think that's important, obviously, because it's not just about you and
the
your dog.
picture.
It's about all people and their
of course,
dogs. Like,
of
people
course.
are going to reuse them, and most people
appreciate
picture that if you tag them.
Or any picture on social media.
Yeah.
It's
really
if somebody composes music and they have sheet music,
it's their work.
Don't copy it, buy the sheet music. It's the same thing.
No, thank you. I think that's really important. She's nothing personal, but she's the celebrity.
Yes.
And you once told me that you have been stopped on the streets of New York. People recognize her. What is that like?
It's really funny. There was one time we were downtown in Madison Square Park. They just renovated the dog park there, and it's really beautiful. And I'm not exaggerating. We were stopped twice before we got into the park, and once when we got in the park. Is that Shayna Maydele? Like, they knew her. We weren't even in our neighborhood. Just the other day, we were in Gramercy Park. We don't live there, and I saw this cute little dog, and I'm like, oh, what kind of dog is that? It's a Havanese. And oh, what kind of dog is that? A Coton. Is that Shayna Maydele? Oh, my goodness. And he went crazy. He's like, my whole family, we all look forward to your pictures. We love you. Oh, my goodness. He took out his phone, and he's texting his family and taking pictures. Could I take a selfie? It's really
do
funny.
People pet her, or do they ask you first?
Oh, yeah. People ask her, or a lot of times, because remember, I live in New York City, so anytime I walk outside, there's like a million people on the street. So I see, people looking, and I'm like, do you want to pet her? And it's always yes. And
is that people who recognize, or just in general? People
just in
like,
general,
That's a really cute dog.
But also where we live, there are a lot of restaurants with outdoor seating. So we'll walk by, and even people who are eating, they're like, oh my goodness, so I'll pick her up and they pet her. And I don't have to worry that she's going to try to grab their food, because she won't do it. But everybody
It's so
pets
nice
her.
to hear, though, because New York City, like any city, like people, are all kind of doing their own thing, even though there's so many.
Yes.
You don't always think of the warmth. And so, like, just the fact that she connects people in that way is pretty amazing.
It's funny. When we used to live in this apartment building, every day I'd wait for the elevator. my next door neighbor would be there. And it's a very New York thing. And I'm friendly, but in New York, you don't talk to people.
You don't look up
You don't
necessarily.
look up. You get on the elevator. You mind your own business. And the day that we were moving, we were locking the door to move. The next door neighbor said, "Moving?" And I'm like, "Yep." And those were the only words that we ever spoke. So, but that's normal.
Yeah.
Okay. Now with the dog, oh my goodness. Luckily, I don't mind speaking to people, because if you're an introvert, you don't want to talk to people, don't get a dog. People just gravitate to you.
That is, I mean, I think that's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
She's also, in addition to getting stopped on the street, she's done some pretty cool things because of who she is.
Yes.
So can you tell us about?
Sure. Another 70 Faces Media brand is the New York Jewish Week, very big newspaper, an online newspaper in New York. And they contacted me and did an interview. So it was really a lot of fun. They came to the house, they took some pictures, and she was dubbed as possibly the most Jewish dog in New York. that is, people, they're forever known as Academy Award nominated. She is forever be possibly the most Jewish dog in New York.
That's a good title to have.
Yes. And then recently I worked with the Jewish Week again, and we spent the day in Coney Island, and they shot a video of Shayna and Maydele in Coney Island, which is really fun because that's where I spent a lot of time as a child. My grandmother lived there. From there, I got a message from somebody from the Jewish Chronicle, which is in London, and it is the oldest continuously operating Jewish publication. So that I found fascinating. And so I was interviewed. Too bad they didn't fly me to London. It was a Zoom or a phone interview. And then from there, Shayna Maydele was popping up in newspapers all over the world. They weren't necessarily interviews, but they would pick up on the stories. I had somebody from England, not from the Jewish Chronicle. Somebody said some local British paper and a local Australian paper. They're like, I would get messages from people. I was reading the paper this morning and I saw your dog. It was incredible. And then once I Googled Shayna Maydele, I found an article in Mexico. It was written in Spanish. So I guess that's journalism today. They just take an article and they credit. I hope they're crediting the sources. So that was pretty amazing to get all.
So, and there was another, I remember seeing last year, she was involved with I think it was the Museum of the Dog.
Oh, yes.
Can't make that up.
Yes, the Museum of the Dog. It's fascinating museum. It's really only for people. It's not for dogs.
It's about dogs.
It's about dogs. But I think once a month they have a program where you could actually bring your dog. So they asked if she would host a Purim party, Pawrim, Purim party. So all these dogs showed up in costumes. It's funny, I don't dress her up, but for Purim, I dressed her up. She dressed up like a little aviator. And it's funny, there was another dog there who dressed up like an airplane named Finley. And I think Finley might be in the
calendar as well.
Yes. So we posed the two of them together. It was the first time they met.
Finley is a gorgeous little
Papillon, yes. So that was really cute.
So I thought that was planned. That was total coincidence?
No, we didn't even know each other. And the museum also had Dog Safe Hamantaschen.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
That's
so
cute.
that was nice.
So I want to actually ask about a person.
Yes. Okay, sure.
So there aren't a lot of humans in your posts. Like very rarely do you see you or your kids or your husband. But I think the one you see the most is your dad.
Yes, we call him Papa.
And he and Shayna Maydele seem to have a very special relationship.
Yes.
And they live in different cities, but it seems like your dad comes to New York or you make it to visit him.
Yes.
Have they always been close?
My dad and Shayna Maydele have a very special bond. And the only time there's a little trouble in paradise is when he comes to visit. His favorite chair to sit on is also her favorite chair. So, whoever gets it first gets the chair. But otherwise, they have a wonderful relationship.
I think I've even seen them Zoom when they're not
together. Yeah, they'll Zoom. My dad's amazing. He's 94. And he's driving. He takes classes at a local college. He goes to foreign film night. He cooks. He golfs. He walks. I mean, he's incredible. But COVID was a tough time. He didn't see anybody for a year and a half. So he learned how to Zoom.
That's great.
He's great. Now he does he listens to lectures online. But yes, so he got to know. He and Shayna Shayna and Maydele became very close over Zoom. But she also has some other grandparents. Rob's mother, Grandma, loves Shayna and Maydele. And so whenever she comes to visit, Shayna and Maydele goes crazy and like jumps all over her. It's wild. It's really sweet. And Rob's father isn't the biggest dog fan. He likes dogs, but isn't not as much as the other grandparents. But what's ironic is I have this wonderful picture of the two of them, and it is quite possibly the best picture I ever took of her and of him. It was just so funny. I had to convince him to hold her.
So we talked about your love for Israel and Judaism, and you post a lot about Judaism, obviously, and most of the people who follow you, and many follow you because of that, and have found you because of that. But I'm curious, just based on what we all know about Instagram, do you get some haters or some problems and some comments that you'd rather not have to some of your Jewish or Israeli related posts?
Well, I mean, anti-Semitism has been on the rise for the past few years. This isn't new since October 7th. So, for a few years, yes, I would get nasty comments. Did not like the comments. And I'm not a news organization, so I feel I don't have any obligation to keep the comments and to not block the person who posted it. So if there's a nasty comment, I delete and I block. There's no room for that on my page. After October 7th, the following day, October 8th, Rob and I went to a pro-Israel rally, and we brought Shayna Maydele with us, had an Israeli flag, and I posted about that. The comments I received, they were so vile. She also lost 5,000 followers because of that post. And it was so upsetting to me, not that I lost 5,000 followers, it's why I lost them. And these people were following me and knew very well it was a Jewish dog. So I think so many people are just
Israel
misinformed. It's about Israel, and they're really misinformed about what's going on. So that really, I had a really hard time with it, because I told you I'm new to social media, and I always heard, oh, it's so bad for your mental health. That is when I really understood what it can do. It really messed me up. It was awful. So I would get such terrible comments. One of them was, put the dog in the oven. I mean, it was wow. Gruesome. So I posted. I made a post. I forget what day it was, but I used the Z word. I used Zionism. I used the word Zionism. People went crazy with the comments, and it was the first and only time I had to actually cut off the comment section in a post. And because of that, I edited I left what it said originally, but then I added something to the bottom saying, just want you to know, this is really sad, but I had to cut off the comments. And luckily, one of my followers messaged me, because I wasn't used to using Instagram or social media, said, you can set filters on your account. And once I was told that, I filtered out
good to know.
Certain things. So now I get far fewer comments, but they still make their way. And yesterday I got a terrible, I don't even want to talk about it. It was so bad, and I deleted it.
What's been the best part of having a dog that thousands of people just enjoy looking at and seeing?
That's such a hard question to answer. The best part of having a dog, it's nice. I've met a lot of people IRL in real life. I'm learning all this stuff. One woman saw that I would go to Maryland a lot to visit my family, and she has 2 Catons. So she messaged me and said, next time you're in Baltimore, let's get together.
That's great.
So I'm like, okay, stranger, let's meet in a public park. I'm from New York. I'm not stupid. I don't know who these people are. So we met, and now we're actually very good friends. We visit them. They
wonderful.
Visit us. She met another Caton, the family that I think they lived in Virginia, but now they're in Ohio, and they travel a lot. So every time they travel, they swing by New York and we see them. So I think that's really been fun.
That's really nice.
Meeting
people. The internet, the Instagram has gone offline.
Yes. I had a woman from Western Canada come and visit with her husband. We're going to be in New York, and we meet up, and and I met them. Somebody else, I forget where. It's funny. We were in Israel a couple of years ago, and one of my followers said, "Oh, I'm here too." And we weren't able to meet up, but we were kind of messaging each other. What did you do? What restaurant? And then eventually, when she was in New York with her husband, we met up.
Nice.
So
that is really
was
nice. So let's say someone calls you up or reaches out to you and says, I want to start an Instagram account for my dog. Do you have any advice?
Oh boy. All I can say is really think about why you want to do it and if it will bring you joy. Excuse me. But if not, don't. And it really depends, why. If I'm going to do it, I want it to look good and I want it to have a purpose. And so I spend way too much time on it. So if you don't care, if you just want to take a couple pictures, throw them up for your friends, by all means, go for it. But if you want a serious Instagram account, just know you have to spend a lot of time.
And I think, and I'm way less of an expert than you are at this point, but it's also later in time and there are a lot of accounts.
Right.
And, you can't, it would be hard to go on expecting to have that many
Of course,
followers. Yes,
of course.
it could happen and you can
Yes.
do all these things, but you really have to do it because you love it. And that might, I think of when I started this podcast, actually, Stacy, who owns the company that we're sitting in their space right now, said, what's your goal? Do you want to make money? I'm like, well, that would be awesome, but that's probably not going to ever happen.
Right.
I said, my goal is really to have fun and for someone to be listening. And if no one's listening, it's probably a waste of my time.
Right.
But if I stop having fun, it's also a waste of my time. And those are my goals, and anything else is bonus. And I think almost for Instagram, very similar.
Very, very similar, because it is a lot of work, but I really do enjoy doing it, putting it out there. When it's out there, I love the comments. I like the Instagram experience, but for a goal, if I could make it something bigger, I don't know. I mean, Shayna Maydele, like everybody wants Shayna Maydele. So if I could do something else with it, I would love to do that. I have yet to figure out what that is. Also, I wanted to thank you for including her on the calendar.
Oh, we are very excited about
and
that.
I'm especially pleased that a portion of the proceeds are going to one of my favorite charities, the Israel Guide Dog Center. Rob and I visited there in Israel a couple of years ago.
In a past episode, we had Michael Leventhal, who
Right.
you met, who's
Yes.
very involved, speaking about that. So people can, if you haven't seen that episode, you can go back and hear and see him talking about the Israel Guide Dog Center and the work that they do. So you may not know, based on what you just said, but what's up next for Shayna Maydele?
What's up next?
Besides going back to New York.
Yeah, besides the long car trip home, she was whining the whole way. It was so funny. If I could do something, you said to monetize it, I enjoy doing it. I've been fortunate enough to work with some companies where they'll give me products and I'll post about them. But I only really post the products that I would actually use. There was a vodka company that asked me to post, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't drink vodka, so I wouldn't do it. And they said, thank you. Like, that was nice that you told us why. But I like helping, especially small business, a lot of them small Jewish businesses. For example, there's an artist, and she has a business called Glam Judaica, where she creates these gorgeous handbags in the shapes of challahs and dreidels and knishes. She even has a gefilte fish one. They're handmade with beautiful crystals, thousands of crystals. And so she sent Shayna Maydele a beautiful challah purse. So she posed with it, and I gave them a shout out. Wasn't a paid partnership, just I received a beautiful handbag, which I love. And then there was another company called Custom Challah Covers. It's new. He just started it, where you send in a photo and they make you a beautiful challah cover. So shout out to both those small businesses. Look them up. So a goal, like, I enjoy doing that. But actually her first partnership of all things, one of my favorite pictures of her, she posed with gefilte fish. It's a really great picture.
I know that one.
It was such a great picture. I think I posted it 2 or 3 times already. And we said in the post how much we like Talkoff horseradish. Living in New York, we don't have that. It's a Maryland brand, and I know it from my family being down in Maryland. So when I posted about it, Talkoff was so excited, and they sent her some horseradish.
Oh, that's awesome.
We ate it. She didn't eat it. So I'll continue to do that. and we'll see. Maybe bigger and better things will come.
Well, she's doing great.
Thank
And
you.
tell us how, I will put this in the show notes, but how we can follow her.
So she's at Shayna, Shayna .Maydele, Maydele .Coton, COTON.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
And
for having
thank you
me.
for being here. This was such a treat, and she was such a good sport. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. I encourage you, plug here, to purchase the Pawsitively Jewish 2025 calendar. The link will be in the show notes as well. And I hope you enjoyed hearing from Heidi and Shayna Maydele as much as I did, and look forward to having you back at the next episode.
Hello, shalom friends. I'm Bo, one of Rabbi Robin's dogs and our original Mazel Pup. If you enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a pawsome 5-star rating, and follow us on social media. Thanks for listening.